I've got one bold prediction for all 32 teams coming your way today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills, and normally I'm joined by Kyle Krabs of Locked On Dolphins, but he's off today. But we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league. The Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode of Locked On NFL Scouting is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for the parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Well, folks, this should be fun. If you listened yesterday to Kyle Krabs, you know exactly what's going to happen today. And Kyle kicked off a series for us, a little small series, where individually we are going to give you one bold prediction for every single NFL team. Kyle gave you his yesterday. I'm giving you mine today. I have no idea what he said. He has no idea what I'm going to say. And we're going to take these predictions, talk about them together, and see what type of wagers we want to make, some friendly wagers between each other on this show. And if you've been listening to us for a number of years, you know that we like to have a few bets per year. And so this should set a good foundation for Kyle and I to come up with some fun bets. And so I've got one bold prediction for you for every team. I try to be very creative with a lot of these and give you some variety. I try to be pretty aggressive. And so hopefully you can have some fun here as I give you some hot takes about each team for the 2023 NFL season. And one thing that's going to be pretty challenging is keeping this on schedule, because there's a lot of teams. There's 32 of them. We're supposed to keep these episodes around 30 minutes. And so I'll try to get this going as quickly as possible and keep the line moving. So let's do it. Let's start. The first team, I'm going in alphabetical order by city. So that means the Arizona Cardinals are up first. And my prediction, that they earned the number one pick in the 2024 NFL draft. Just don't feel good about what this team is right now. New coaching staff, a very inexperienced coaching staff. Your franchise quarterback is rehabbing an ACL tear. I think your remainder of team is bottom 3 in the NFL in terms of roster. I don't see this going well. I think the Arizona Cardinals will own the number one pick next draft. For the Atlanta Falcons, I am predicting at least a 10-spot jump up in total defense. They were number 27 in 2022. I think they get to at least number 17. This team has really invested on the defensive side of the football, both in the form of young talent through recent drafts, but also some really intriguing free agent additions, whether it's Calais Campbell or Jesse Bates. They brought in Jeff Okudah with the trade. There's a lot of new pieces to this defense. There's good experience. There's good young players. I think they're going to have a big jump when it comes to their defensive output. So at least 17th in the league in total defense. For the Baltimore Ravens, I'm predicting a career high for Lamar Jackson in passing yards. And his current career high is 3,127. So I'm predicting more than that. And a big part of this for Lamar is going to be staying healthy. And obviously I'm counting on that for this prediction to become true. But also I'm excited for what he has at his disposal. I think their weaponry is as good as it's been since he's been their quarterback. You've got Todd Monken now calling this offense, coordinating this offense. We expect to see a different looking passing offense, and it should unlock more of Lamar Jackson. And so I think he's going to have a career high in passing yards in 2023. For the Buffalo Bills, I am predicting for Stephon Diggs to break the franchise single season receiving touchdown record. He tied it last year with 11. I think he gets at least 12 this year, and the current leader for single season receiving touchdowns is Bill Brooks, had 11 in 1995. So it's not Andre Reed, it's not James Lofton, it's not Eric Moulds, it's not Lee Evans, it's not Stevie Johnson, it's Bill Brooks, 11. And then, of course, Stephon Diggs tied it last year. I think he gets at least 12 this year. Diggs is on a mission. I've watched him for the last couple of days here in Buffalo. That's where I'm at right now. So, this isn't my normal setup. I'm in Western New York, courtesy of my Aunt Karen. I'm in her kitchen right now recording this podcast. And so I think Diggs is on a mission this year. I think he gets at least 12 touchdown catches. For the Carolina Panthers, I am predicting a new career high in receptions for running back Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders' career high currently is 50. He had 50 catches in 2019. I think he'll get at least 51 for the Carolina Panthers this year. And obviously, they're going to feed him the football. They gave him a pretty decent deal to come and be their feature back. There's not a lot of competition behind him. I mean, Chuba Hubbard's the backup, not much after him, and a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. I think he's going to really lean on Miles Sanders to catch the football for him, be that safety blanket, and get the ball out of his hands quickly at times. And, of course, the screen game. I think you see at least 51 catches from Miles Sanders this year, a new career high for him. Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, my prediction is going to be about him. I think he averages, this feels like a bold one, he averages 200 passing yards per game. And that's a big jump. He averaged 149.5 last year, which was down from 155.8 in 2021. But this is a big year for Justin Fields, year 3, year 2 with Luke Getsy. He's got DJ Moore. He's got a healthy Emmanuel Mooney. He's got a handsomely paid tight end now in Cole Kmet. Upgrades to the offensive line. I always say Emmanuel Mooney. I know it's Darnell Mooney. So for those of you that were yelling at me and for the pronunciation police that were about to arrest me, I'm sorry. It's Darnell Mooney. But I feel really good about, or as good as I can about the Bears on offense. I feel terrible about their defensive line, but I think Fields can average 200 passing yards per game, and that would give him, I think, like 3,400 for the season, passing yards, which would be more than Lamar Jackson has ever gotten by 300 yards. Cincinnati Bengals. I predict that Zach Taylor coordinates the most prolific rushing offense of his career. He's had 5 seasons as an NFL head coach or offensive coordinator. He's never finished higher than 23rd in rushing yards. Sign me up for 22nd or higher in 2023 for the Cincinnati Bengals. Cleveland Browns. I am predicting a career high in sacks for Myles Garrett. 17 sacks this year at least for Myles Garrett. He's had 16 in each of the last 2 seasons. I think he tops that. And there's 3 reasons why. Jim Schwartz, Zadarius Smith, and Agbo Okoronkwo. Jim Schwartz getting him in some of those wide 9 alignments and sending him at the pocket is going to be an absolute nightmare for opponents. And I think he's going to rack up sacks. But then I think he's supported better than he ever has been on this defensive line collectively with the additions of Zadarius Smith and Agbo Okoronkwo this offseason. And so I think Jim Schwartz and the improved supporting cast is going to unlock even more from Myles Garrett in terms of sack production. For the Dallas Cowboys, I predict that Mazi Smith has at least 3 times the amount of sacks he had during his entire college career at Michigan as a rookie. And he only had a half a sack for his entire career at Michigan. And I think he gets at least 3 times that in 2023. So at least 1.5 sacks for Mazi Smith as a rookie. And for the Denver Broncos, I have at least 700 yards from scrimmage from Samaje Perine. And I think this is a very underrated signing. It might be my favorite move that they made this offseason. And I know that you should be more excited about adding Mike McGlinchey and Ben Powers and Zach Allen, right? Those are good players to add to your football team. But when you consider the value component, I think Perine's really going to matter. I like him with Sean Payton. I like him as a complementary piece to Javonte Williams. I like Sean Payton's ability to get multiple backs going. And Samaje Perine really showed us a lot last year with the Cincinnati Bengals as a receiver, as a blocker, as a runner. I think he's going to be involved in this offense and sign me up for at least 700 yards. All right, folks, got more to get to here, but first need to tell you about Underdog. August is here, and you know what that means. The official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out best ball on Underdog Fantasy. All you do is one live snake draft. No waivers, no trades. Underdog sets your best lineup every week, and you can try it with Underdog's Best Ball Mania Tournament. Check this out. It's the largest fantasy football contest of all time, and it's back, and it's even bigger with $15 million of total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner actually drafted their team in July. So don't wait around. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code LOCKEDON. All right, folks, we've got a bunch more to get to. We've only done 10 teams. We got 22 left to go. I'm not a math guy, but I think that checks out. So let's keep it moving. The next one here comes from the Detroit Lions. My prediction for them is about Aiden Hutchinson. I predict that he logs the 8th 12-plus sack season in Detroit Lions history. 9.5 sacks for Aiden Hutchinson as a rookie. I think he has even more as a sophomore. So give me at least 12-plus for Aiden Hutchinson, and that'll be the 8th time in Lions history that happens. Green Bay Packers. I think this football team is going to run the ball. And so sign me up for a top 8 rushing offense from the Packers in terms of total rushing yards. They were 18th in 2021. They're 15th in 2022. I think with Jordan Love being the quarterback, you're going to want to lean more into the rushing offense with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but also Jordan Love's a very athletic quarterback, and he's going to add to this total. They might even be top 5, but I'll go a little bit safe and go with top 8, which is still the top 25% of the league. Houston Texans. I predict that they have the most wins in a season than they've had since 2019. And so they had 3 wins in 2020, 4 in 2021, 4 in 2022. I think they get at least 5 this year in year 1 under DeMeco Ryans. I just finally think this team has somewhat of an identity. They're building a core nucleus roster. I think we've said for like 2 or 3 years in a row that the Houston Texans felt like an expansion team. I finally don't feel like that. I think this starts to come together a little bit, and I think they win at least 5 football games, their most since 2019. Indianapolis Colts. I'm predicting 1,100 yards or more from Michael Pittman. That'll be a career high from him. The wide receiver. He had 1,082 in 2021, which was his most productive year. I think he tops that, despite Anthony Richardson / Gardner Minshew being the quarterback, despite questions with the offensive line, despite massive questions with running back. Michael Pittman is the most consistent thing about this offense. I think he gets at least 1,100 yards, and it's a contract year for Michael Pittman. And so if they don't get a deal done before the season, he's going to be real motivated. And I think he's the kind of guy that's going to be motivated no matter what. So 1,100 yards at least for Michael Pittman, despite a very unknown quarterback situation. Jacksonville Jaguars. I predict that Trevor Lawrence sets the single season franchise record for passing yards, which is currently 4,428. Mr. Blake Bortles did that in 2015. That's the guy. They've only had 3 4,000-yard passing seasons in franchise history, and there was one each for Mark Brunell, Blake Bortles, and Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence did it last year. I think he breaks the single-season franchise record for passing this year. Obviously, year 2 in the system with Doug Peterson. It's year 3 of his career. He's got more receiving talent than he's ever had. Second year with Ingram and Zay Jones, which I think will be important. Christian Kirk as well. And, of course, his first year with Calvin Ridley. A little bit more in the tight end room. I think he's going to pass for a lot of yards, the most ever in Jaguars history this year. For the Kansas City Chiefs, I predict that Isaiah Pacheco delivers the first 1,000-yard rushing season for the Chiefs since Kareem Hunt did it in 2017. They've not had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2017. I think Isaiah Pacheco delivers that. For the Las Vegas Raiders, I predict that Josh McDaniels does not finish the year as the head coach. I don't know how you could look at this roster and feel good about what they have entering the league or entering the year, especially in the AFC West. I think they're clearly the fourth best team. Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback, that doesn't excite me. We have no idea if Hunter Renfrow is going to really be part of this mix. You've seen them trade away players, right, that could help them. I just don't like the way this team is constructed. I especially within the context of the conference and the division. They won 6 games last year. It was a drop off, right? For whatever you wanted to criticize Mike Mayock and John Gruden, it went from a 2-win team to a 10-win team in a short period of time, and then they regressed. And I don't think that on paper this roster is any better. I have massive concerns about it, and I just don't have a lot of faith in Josh McDaniels either as a head coach. So I think he doesn't get out of the season as the coach. Los Angeles Chargers, I predict that this will be the best scoring offense in the history of the franchise. I think they score the most points in a single season in franchise history. Currently, that number is 492, which happened back in 2006. I think they get at least 493 points this year. Justin Herbert, big-time contract, obviously. They've added to the weaponry. They got a healthy offensive line with a ton of talent. Kellen Moore takes over the coordination of this offense. Points are coming, and an aggressive coach in Brandon Staley as well. There's going to be scoring. They're probably going to top 500 points this year. Los Angeles Rams, I predict that they're bottom 5 in the NFL in sacks. And I think that's, if you have Aaron Donald on your football team, you should never be in the bottom 5 of the NFL in sacks. But that's what I think about the rest of this roster, especially on the D-line. Just no proven guys. Lost their leading sacker, Leonard Floyd, from last year. He's not back. Questions in the secondary, questions in the back, the entire back. There's questions everywhere on the defense. Right? What do you actually have? You have Jordan Fuller, Ernest Jones, who's kind of good-looking young player, and Aaron Donald. That's it. Bottom 5 in sacks. Miami Dolphins, I'm predicting 6 or more sacks for Christian Wilkins. I think this is going to be a good year for Christian Wilkins rushing the passer. I don't think he's had the opportunity to really showcase himself as a pass rusher. His current career high is 4.5. Through 4 seasons, he has 11.5 sacks. And for the volume of snaps he plays, he doesn't even have a lot of pressures. His pass rush productivity scores are very, very low. I think you see a really good pass rusher this year with Vic Fangio, with a lot of talent around him. I think he gets at least 6 sacks this year, which is pretty impressive when you consider he has 11.5 in his first 4 seasons. And it's also a contract year, right? I mean, maybe the deal gets done before the season, but you get a motivated Christian Wilkins to go out there and rush the passer, I think you're going to get some big numbers. I mean, right now he's probably around a $20 million a year player, 18, 19, 20. He goes out there and has 6, 7, 8 sacks. Now he's in the mid-20s, right? It's going to be a good year for Wilkins. Minnesota Vikings. I am predicting less than 13 wins, which is what they had in year 1 under Kevin O'Connell. That's not a bold part, but I'm going to parlay this. Less than 13 wins, but with a positive point differential for the first time since 2019. They won 13 games last year and did not have a positive point differential. I think the defense is going to be better with Brian Flores taking over despite, a lot of attrition with the roster. And the offense should evolve, right? Year 2 with Kevin O'Connell, Jordan Addison, now to complement Justin Jefferson. You've got TJ Hawkinson now with kind of a full offseason with the team. Offense will be better. Defense will be better. They'll win less games, but they'll have a positive point differential. New England Patriots, I'm predicting that they finish last in the AFC East, which is a big deal because they haven't done that since 2000. Last in the AFC East for the first time since 2000. That's my prediction for the New England Patriots. All right, folks, we got another 10 teams to get to right after a very, very quick break. All right, guys, let's do it. We got 10 more teams. I got 10 more predictions. Next up is the New Orleans Saints. I predict that they are the NFC North champions by at least 1 game. No tiebreakers. They're the outright champions of the NFC North. And I think that's fascinating because the Saints And this NFC North, a lot of people think it's a wide open division, right? But the further we get into this, I think to myself, Desmond Ridder, Falcons quarterback, a lot of newness that needs to come together on the defense. Or relying on a lot of young players. I like the offensive line, but Desmond Ridder's a quarterback. Go to Carolina. There's a lot that has to come together. So much turnover. Bryce Young going to be the rookie starter. He's an outlier in so many ways. Defense, do they have enough pass rush outside of Brian Burns? It's a big question for me. Can the secondary stay healthy? And then you look at Tampa Bay, and it's like Kyle Trask is really pushing the envelope here as it relates to the starting job versus Baker Mayfield. I don't know. I think the Saints are the most talented team. They're the best in the trenches. They got the best quarterback, or at least the most proven quarterback. I'm concerned about their coaching staff, but I think they should win this division. NFC North champs by at least one game. New York Giants, I'm predicting 25 touchdown passes for Daniel Jones, which would be a career high, and it would match his total from the past 2 seasons combined. I think he had 10 one year and 15. So 25 touchdown passes the last 2 years. I'm predicting he gets that in 2023 alone. Year 2 with Brian Daboll, and obviously the first year of his new contract. I think he's going to have some good production. New York Jets. I predict that the New York Jets start the 2023 season 0-2. They host the Bills on Monday Night Football to start the year. I think that's a bad matchup for them in week 1 with so much new on that football team. And a Bills team that, last time they played, they didn't look good. 27-10 home loss against the Bengals. Rodgers week 1's typically been pretty inconsistent. And then they go at Dallas in week 2. I think they start 0-2. Now, I think that the Jets probably win 10 or 11 games despite the 0-2 start, but I predict an 0-2 start. And I'm fascinated to see what the storylines and narratives are going to be after all the hype that's existed this offseason, making them the darlings of the league, and what happens when they start 0-2 against in a primetime game against the Bills on Monday Night Football. Everyone's going to be watching. It's the last game of the week 1. And then at Dallas, pretty big showcase games. There's going to be questions. We'll see. And Aaron Rodgers is going to tell everyone to relax, and they're going to go out and win 10 or 11 games, but 0-2 start. Philadelphia Eagles, I'm predicting 3 rushers with 500 or more yards. I think between Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, Rashad Penny, and Kenneth Gainwell, 3 of them gain at least 500 rushing yards in 2023. Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm predicting a double-digit win season. And maybe you're thinking to yourself, that's not very aggressive. Well, they have not done that in 4 of the last 5 years, including the last 2. And obviously, I think the most competitive division, top to bottom, is the AFC North. Double-digit wins for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Their schedule, very, very favorable. For the San Francisco 49ers, I'm predicting Christian McCaffrey to have 2,000 yards from scrimmage for just the second time in his career. So I'm predicting Christian McCaffrey to stay healthy, and I'm predicting him to produce. Obviously, Kyle Shanahan, great offensive mind and play caller and scheme guy. But year 2, not getting traded midseason, he should hit the ground running. There should be a lot of production. There's a lot to think about when you play the 49ers because they have other great playmakers like Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk, and Christian McCaffrey as well. I mean, come on. There's going to be a lot to deal with. I think he gets 2,000 yards. Seattle Seahawks, I'm predicting 10 wins. I think Seattle's probably a team that, as I studied them this offseason, I became more and more comfortable with their collective talent and their ability to win football games. And they won 9 last year with Geno Smith, and I think that surprised a lot of people. I think they do one better at least this year. 10 wins for the Seahawks. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'm predicting a bottom 5 scoring offense. I just don't like this offense at all. You have Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield competing to be your starting quarterback. Rachaad White is going to take over as your lead back. You have question marks all over your offensive line. A developing young tight end, Cade Otton, who I like, but Mike Evans is aging a little bit. Chris Godwin, is he, I don't know. I don't know if they have enough. conservative coach and Todd Bowles, bottom 5 scoring offense. I mean, they were 23rd last year with Tom Brady. If you're thinking it's going to be better because Dave Canales is the offensive coordinator, I think that's tough. I don't think he has the talent. I like their defense. Bottom 5 scoring offense for the Bucs. Tennessee Titans, I'm predicting that Derrick Henry is traded before the trade deadline. I think the Titans are going to have a moment of realization that they're a mediocre football team that's not positioned well to compete in the AFC. They're going to sell a little bit. And a team's going to look at Derrick Henry and say, adding that guy to my football team can really make a difference down the stretch. There's no other back in the league like Derrick Henry. You get this guy on your football team for the playoffs, cold weather ball, someone's going to want him. I think the Titans will be wise to reset there. Last team, Washington Commanders, and I'm amazed that I'm going to get this done in under 30 minutes. Washington Commanders, I'm predicting less than 350 points scored for a 7th consecutive season. I think they average under 20.5 points per game. Just think the offensive line here is a major wild card. And so is their quarterback, Sam Howell. They don't have a tight end. We'll see what they have at running back. I love Dotson and McLaurin, but you need other things to be good on your offense to maximize those players. And I just have questions about everything else. I don't think they get over 350 points this year for a 7th consecutive season. All right, folks, there you have it. I did it. One bold prediction for all 32 NFL teams. I'm very excited now that I get to learn what Kyle's are. I'm very excited to hook back up with Kyle next week and compare everything and get back into our rhythm a little bit. So thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us this week on the podcast. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review. Have a great weekend. We'll have another show for you coming again on Monday. Keep it locked in right here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.